Even though this week Hatman and I do have different picks, we'll both be talking about Alita Battle Angel together. But Hatman, I will let you go ahead and start off since I am the one who knows this franchise in and out. I'm curious to see what your thoughts were on it before I start getting into it.
Well, first off, I still to this day call it Battle Angel Alita because that's what I've known it as ever since I first heard. Yeah, James Cameron's been working on this forever. Okay, but anyway, no, I actually like this. It's interesting because there is a lot of exposition that you have to get through in order to really sort of understand how things work in this world, like more so than usual. But with this, it takes about the first half hour before you're like, okay, I think I get what's going on now. But it does something really, really good. It takes the exposition and, just gives it to you for a bit, then demonstrates it some, and then it moves on to something else, and then it gives you a little more, and then it demonstrates that, and then it, rinse and repeat until you have a relatively clear understanding on, okay, this is how this world works. These are the rules. This is what's going on. Okay, this makes sense. I can get invested now, and I really like that. Was it really believable? I don't fucking know. I mean, it's sci-fi. I really didn't care. The one thing that I found somewhat jarring, but it was more of like the uncanny valley area, was Alita herself.
Mm.
The big eyes, yes, they stood way the fuck out ever since the first trailer. Eventually, you just sort of get used to it, and then when you see like her flashing back to her time on Mars, as super soldier, whatever the name of it was, like everyone that is with her in that unit looks like her. So you're like, okay, that makes sense now. Whereas before, like, she's the only character that looks the way that she does. And it's jarring mostly because of that. But also just the CG on her, because she is, as far as I can tell, a fully CG character.
Yes.
And you see other people with these modifications, like Zapan being the prime fucking example here.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, basically it's just his fucking face left. But he still doesn't look like really fucking out there like Alita does. And that's why I say this uncanny valley territory for the most part. But other than that, no, the movie looks really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
As for the plot, you can tell this is set up for a franchise.
Definitely.
It makes it so fucking crystal clear. Even the ending. The ending is very clearly okay, because they more or less just rush in like the last half hour for a resolution that is not really a resolution, but a promise of more to come.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I'm on board with that. I am okay with more. Unfortunately, I think this is sort of like a Ghost in the Shell situation where people are too weirded out. At least your average moviegoer is too weirded out to really not so much identify with this, but to really invest into it emotionally. With Ghost in the Shell, and I reviewed this movie before. It's niche, but it's niche enough to where no one is going to bother really looking into the source material too much, unless they're like already an anime fan. And with that, I think that's why that movie kind of did as badly as it did, because your average moviegoer had no fucking idea what was going on. It was too much for them.
Yeah.
With this, I knew basically nothing about the source material. Like, I got the crash course with my friend after we left the fucking theater. I was still able to get invested in this. Not because, I know and enjoy some anime, but because I think it did a good job at trying to bridge that gap between Japanese media and American media, or Western media, really. Also, before I fucking forget, because I know I'm going to fucking forget, I saw this in IMAX 3D. See it in IMAX if you go see it, because it's really fucking great.
Mm-hmm.
And don't see it in 3D, because the 3D doesn't do jack fucking shit for it. As if you really needed me to tell you that. I have seen only 2 fucking movies in 3D that were wholly justified. Doctor Strange and Pacific Rim.
Yeah, exactly. Doctor Strange especially.
Oh yeah, that was great in fucking 3D. But no, this, you don't need to fucking see it in 3D. It ain't jack fucking shit.
No. So I saw this as well. Just saw it today. And so I'll be coming from the perspective of somebody who really knows the series pretty well. I of course did a Things I Love video on Battle Angel Alita, the manga. It's a manga that I literally picked up randomly. I didn't know much about it, and I started reading it, and I'm like, holy shit, this is intense. For those who are familiar with it, I will say that this is basically a PG-13 version of the original manga, which is about what I expected it to be. Because the original has that sort of feeling of like 90s cyber, or 80s and 90s cyberpunk, where there's a grotesque nature to it, and it's gory as hell. And this, for a PG-13 movie, is very violent. But there's not a lot of blood spilled, all things considered. And if it is spilled, it's oil from robots. It's not like blood.
There's a couple of times where you see blood, and then you know, one dude's getting cut in half.
Yeah, but there's not like organs flying everywhere or anything like that, like there would be if the film was rated R.
Not really. It's robot violence.
Yeah, which for a Robert Rodriguez directed film is very surprising. I would have thought that Robert would have pushed for that, because it is a part of the tone of the original, is that it's a very brutal world that she lives in.
Oh God! Imagine a Machete cameo.
Oh God, but anyway, the story, though, is largely well preserved. It is the first 2 arcs with a little bit of intermixing of the third, and the start of the third at the very end of the film. And the general plot is well preserved. What's his face, who plays Ito in this, is great.
Christoph Waltz.
Christoph Waltz. He's perfect for the character, honestly. And then Alita herself is just as charming. Like, the crazy thing about it is that Alita feels like she leapt off the pages of the manga as a character. Like, obviously the look, like they try to preserve her look in the manga, especially the early look where she had really big eyes and stuff like that. In not Mars Chronicle, well, in Mars Chronicle she doesn't have big eyes, but also in Last Order she doesn't have as big of eyes. Her design is very different. But point being is that she's a very charming character. She's disarmingly sweet and a little bit of an idealist, but the way that the way she presents herself and the way that it clashes with the world around her is part of what the appeal of the character always was from the get-go. There's a part in the bar where she gives this great speech. There's a rousing of the troops speech. Everyone, there's a beat, and then they just start laughing their asses off at her.
And then it goes from that to, all right, I'll fight all of you and then you will have to fucking join me. Fuck you guys.
Yeah, pretty much. And the thing about this is that about the first 2 arcs is that, you know, some characters were changed. The character of Vector is very different than what he is in the manga. He's made a little bit more of just a straight up bad guy in this because they needed a big bad, but they didn't want to introduce Nova yet because Nova really doesn't come into play until the third arc onwards. But they wanted to start to introduce him because he is the big bad of the story, of the overarching plot of Alita.
You get the sense that he is like the Emperor Palpatine character.
Yeah.
And they make no effort to hide that at all.
Yeah.
So.
But then, and also they changed a couple other dynamics. They made the original Alita that Alita is named after is no longer Ito's cat, and a lot of her cat motifs from the original are gone, which is kind of a bummer because she's always compared to a cat in the manga. But there's even one of her outfits where she actually has a tail. But yeah, Vector's goes from a minor character to a major one, played well by Mahershala Ali. Jennifer Connelly plays Kieran or Chiron. I can't remember how to pronounce her name, but and they confirm that her and Ito were married at one point and had a daughter. So they changed elements of Alita's origin that I wasn't 100% comfortable with them changing, but there's still a lot there to tell.
Yeah. Well, it's really done for the Western audience.
Yeah.
It sort of beats them over the head with this is a father-daughter relationship.
Yeah, and that was one thing that I actually didn't like about it. Instead of the relationship growing and it just being Ito naturally being an overprotective individual, and, basically her being... Because in the manga, it's basically like that Alita is his only child he's ever had. Instead, it just kind of, gives him this weird second chance thing that really doesn't go very far or really go anywhere.
It's weird because you still get the dynamic that they are father and daughter, like that,
which is straight from the manga.
Yeah, but why it needed the explicit setup of I have a dead daughter, you are wearing her body.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know.
The action, though, in this is phenomenal. Very well done.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The motorball segment. Holy shit.
Yeah, the motorball segment is sick. The fights with between Alita and Grushka were really good. The bar fight, obviously, was really good as well. But other elements of it are kind of like just sort of the ways that it's kind of neutered in a sense. Like I mentioned, the gore is considerably less. Grushka is not addicted to brains. He gets zero development in this at all, whereas he had a lot of development in the original and had a very sad backstory that never even gets touched. He basically just shows up to get his ass beat.
Well, yeah, it's basically a revenge narrative.
Yeah,
is his whole fucking shtick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But either way, I mean, the casting is really good. There is not a bad performance in this at all. Ed Skrein as Zapan was really good.
Oh, god damn, yes.
Perfect casting.
He was great, absolutely.
Another character that basically felt like he leapt right off the page. The big thing about this one was that it was a very westernized version of the story, but in a good way. It's a lot less hokey than a lot of like anime tends to be. Mm-hmm. Of big speeches, because like I said, the one big speech she gets laughed about.
Yeah,
and she's like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna kick all your asses." Those little bits are really cool. Honestly, like I really did like this movie. Like it is, again, it's a PG-13 version of Alita, but the blood and guts that I did get were good and well done and were shocking and were impactful. And yeah, it's definitely a movie I recommend. If you're a fan of the original, I think you'll like it. Just go into it expecting it to be not rated R, basically. Mm-hmm. But it pushes it for sure. They get their one fuck in and it's very impactful.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. So there was one last thing I was going to say about it, and I'm forgetting.
Do you want to talk about Destinova?
Yes. You do see Nova in this. Played by none other than Edward fucking Norton.
It's basically a tease for the next one.
Yeah.
And I
And
hope to God we get a next one.
here's the thing. He looks exactly like him. To the point where it was kind of scary. And I'm like, oh shit. This is going to be awesome. So I'm really hoping this movie gets a sequel. I really am.
So, this is one of these that I will recommend that you go see so that we have a chance to get a sequel. Because knowing audiences like we do, they're not going to enjoy this. Your average moviegoer is going to go like, it was okay. This is something I'd fucking fall asleep to watching on AMC or some shit. But I want a sequel to this. And again, somebody who doesn't know the fucking source material. I want to see a sequel. Micah, I'm sure you want to see a sequel.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And given how Edward Norton he's a bit of an asshole from what I've been told, but he's also a perfectionist. I like the fact that he is a perfectionist. I can't think of a bad role I've ever seen him in.
No.
So he has a very
Even if he is an asshole, he's a damn good actor.
yeah, he has a very high opinion of his ability, and he wants to reach it every time. And that, I think, is part of the reason why he's had so many memorable roles. So
people have been talking about, apparently there's complaints that Alita was over-sexualized. How?
yeah, I don't understand that either. Like there's not really much. This is pretty, like, the relationship between her and what's his face is pretty pure in this. Like,
Hugo, but named Hugo.
yeah, but yeah, there's not much sexuality in this at all. It was actually a really nice change of pace.
Yeah.
That's one thing I like about the original Alita as well, is that it's like any of the loving stuff that's done is very wholesome. And it's fantastic, you know, in comparison to kind of the Eastern way of everyone must jump everyone's loins to prove you're in love.
I mean, I guess like the only thing I could think of is the Berserker. Like when it's changing and when she does the little fucking gymnastics thing afterwards, but that's
But
not,
even then, it doesn't come across as sexual.
no, not at all.
The only line that came across kind of like that was when the when Ito's nurse looks at her and goes, "Well, maybe she's a little older than you thought because her bust was bigger."
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that, and that was just a boob joke.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling that the Japanese audiences who were watching this are going to laugh their asses off at that line.
Mm-hmm.
Because it like this was just legitimately just a very, very charming and fun movie.
Yeah, it really was.
So
really was.
So yeah,
So-
full price thumbs up from us. Go
Yes,
watch it.
absolutely. Go watch it. Go watch it in IMAX, but don't watch it in 3D. Swear
Yes,
to God.
exactly.